doing. I'm looking forward to start doing this well, at least once a week, but as things occur and all that, scheduling, I'll try and keep something, trying to get this once a week. Every week I plan on doing something different about the BOP. My name is William Duck. I retired as a captain at a penitentiary. I had the honor to do that at USP Beaumont and also at FCI Berlin. I spent about 25 years in the Bureau. I did special operations. I had the privilege and honor to do it at a couple of joints. The first place was USP Lompoc. The people there are awesome. And also FCC Victorville. I enjoyed it, and those who were the lieutenants at that time, good people. One was, some of them retired right now, and all those teammates, they're good people, real good people. Real quick, one friend, just say his first name, he passed away not long ago. Good man, hard worker. Let's see. I retired last year, and I hit the maximum age. Most people in the Bureau don't. They get around the 20, 21, 22, maybe 23 year time. And translation, basically in their early 50s. I stayed to the max. I wish I discovered the Bureau of Prisons a few years earlier, but as they say, it is what it is. The Bureau of Prisons has a lot of good people. Majority of them are real good people. And some, enough said. I'm going to go over every week something different. And since I retired, people have asked me a lot about the Bureau of Prisons. And the first thing I always tell them is throw away Orange is the New Black. It's crap. Most of the stuff in there is nonsense. It's Hollywood. I tell them that the levels are all different. The policies and procedures are the same. And it's an interesting career. I encourage anybody that wants to get into corrections, go to the Bureau of Prisons. They still are the better correctional agency in this country, and I would still say in the world. They've slipped down down the hill a little bit over the last 10, 12 years, maybe even 15. But hopefully one day things do a U-turn and start reversing to the direction it was. And that's what happens. Things like this happen when agencies, they grow faster than the quality of type people you can bring in. But that's another day, another topic. One of the first things that people talk to me about is Epstein. What happened? How did this can happen? And it's simple. And I tell them, there is no conspiracy. Some MI force didn't sneak in there. It wasn't the CIA, NSA, DNI, or any other government agency. Nobody did that. What you have is a man that killed himself. He saw no way out, and he killed himself. Period. Some people will say the staff that were responsible. No. If a person wants to kill himself, they're going to kill himself. Period. Even in the Bureau of Prisons, it happens. It straight out happens. Did they do other things? I'll get into that. But things like this do happen, where staff don't do their job. It happened at USP Lee. It happened at FCI Lieutenant. This is not new. And these things, majority of it have been caused, not the incident, but staff not going around doing their JOB is because of laziness, straight out. And they're blamed for that. That'll come down the road. All right, Epstein. And it's not that hard to figure out what happened. The feds got him. They locked him into the detention center. He was hoping to get bail. He's a billionaire, and all he needed was bail, and he was gone. There's always some South American country or African country or even an Asian country that's going to take the money and bribes, and he'll be fine. But that didn't happen. Thankfully, some judge, whoever made the decision, did it right. We see some things that judges do and you just shake your head. But in this situation, he did the right thing. Once he saw that he wasn't getting out of bail, plus with inmates doing this, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, we're going to gut you, we're going to kill you, we're going to do all these things to you, and some even going, we're going to bend you over. Guarantee you. And when he's sitting there in his cell going, CO, what do you think? Or, to a staff member, what do you think? I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. You're screwed, you're done, whatever. You're going to be a PC bitch. Protective custody. Okay? And with all this stuff, and inmates going at it, staff are just going to tell them the truth. Inmates are the ones he had to worry about saying all these things. And with all that, his bail being refused, that's when he decided to cut his neck. Dealing with many inmates who made suicide attempts, either by hanging or cutting their wrist or cutting their neck. With inmates who cut their neck, it's usually 2 or 3 cuts. The first one is always, okay, I hurt a little bit. You go a little deeper, and then either the second or third one. Once in a blue moon, there's a fourth, but it's usually the second or third one. And they start bleeding out. Either he passed out because his own blood. People do that. And or enough blood come out, and he did pass out. Staff come by, and they go in, cuff him up. They're supposed to, and then take him out. They either took him to the SHU medical room, and then they decided to get him out, or they took him straight to the medical department in the institution, and then decided to ship him out by ambulance for further medical treatment. And the reason they did that was either nobody was on shift, either stitch or staple him up. The person on shift wasn't qualified for that, or the person that was on shift and the gash was either too bad, too serious, or because of his situation, they sent him out. I would love to see the medical assessment, but that's not going to happen until it goes to court. So he goes out, gets stapled, gets sutured, or both, and they send him back, and they put him on suicide watch. Now, suicide watch in the Bureau of Prisons is they'll put him in observation room. They'll have a staff member watch him every minute. Basically, he'll sit in a chair, and he'll do this. Just watch him. Or he'll stand up, and they'll be pacing, watching him, watching the inmate. They'll have like a pamphlet, light blue pamphlet that's from psychology department, and they'll write in there, inmate Epstein, number, place on suicide watch. That's normal. Then they'll put the time that he went on. And then every 15 minutes, they're going to note what is he doing. When I was a lieutenant, most of the time I went in there and I wrote inmate place on suicide watch, number, and the time, and I would sign. Every lieutenant is different, but that's what I normally would do. And now if I was too busy, I had other things going on, I'd have my activities or have somebody who else is a supervisor do it, maybe the SHU lieutenant. They go in there and they would do it. Another thing they're supposed to do is when they go in the room, check the floor, check the wall, ceiling, make sure there's nothing there that he can grab to cut his wrist, cut his throat, or whatever. One time we were putting the inmate on watch at FCI Texarkana and went in there to check the observation room, and I looked up and the vent had a piece of metal hanging out there. Well, obviously we couldn't put him in there until that issue was taken care of. Now, staff can get relieved, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, stretch their legs or walk around, whatever. But that staff member relieving them is going to sit there and watch them. And in that book, they're going to put what they're doing, what that inmate is doing. For example, inmate pacing, inmate walking in the cell, singing, inmate laying on back, looking at the ceiling, inmate crying, inmate laying on the right side, eyes sleeping. Now, I always try to correct staff on that, and I would challenge them, because if they have to go to civil court or criminal, because maybe there was something criminal going on, the last thing you want to do is get in front of a jury and look stupid and have it explained by the opposing lawyer, how do you know he was asleep? Well, his eyes closed. Well, just because somebody's eyes closed and laying down doesn't mean they're asleep. And then you look foolish. So I would get a lot of staff to write inmate laying on right side, eyes closed. Inmate laying on their back, eyes closed. And another thing is, they're going to be put in a schmuck. Go on YouTube, look at Antonio Brown in front of that judge. He's got something that's similar to a schmuck, except in the bureau, it's a darkish type blue. And they'll have that on. And sometimes psychology will allow them to have a smock type blanket, and it's stiff, but they can pull it over. Now, if they do get one of those, their head has to be above it so the staff can see it, and their hands. Now, too many times we've had to tell, supervisors will have to tell staff, you got to see their hands. Because what can happen is, and has happened years ago, is that inmates, there's always, especially among black inmates or African American inmates, whatever your political wording is they have a tendency of having one or two nails that are long and thick. Well, sometimes, and it's happened, they'll sit under the blanket and they'll just cut their wrist, and then guess what? They start bleeding out. They have to have their hands up. If they refuse, there've been quite a few times I've gone in with staff and I've taken that because the inmate's not cooperating. And they usually get upset, but you know what? Just cooperate. But that comes with manipulation and other things that inmates and games that they play. So while he's in there, psychology is going to see him every day. And they're going to write up a report. And let me tell you something about the Bureau psychology staff. Most of them are damn good. I give them kudos. I give them credit. They're good. Once in a while, you're going to get one that's it's above them. They shouldn't even work there. I've seen a couple. There was two at USP McCrary. He was a big guy, but he was spineless, and you can't be a coward in there. Yes, do the Bureau prisons have cowards? Oh, absolutely. They'll run away, leave you freaking get stabbed 100 times. That's what happened at USP Florence with a staff member. The ladies, female staff there, screw stop. But yet nothing happened to them. The good thing is they left on their own. They left the Bureau. But he did something. He ended up leaving, going to work in the VA. Great. Not everybody's made for to work in a prison. Not everybody is. And that the lady, she ended up, I believe, went to, she was snowflake type. Y'all can just imagine. And it was above her. I mean, one time something happened and she was just bawling. We didn't get along, but, you know, I still went in there to try and calm her down, talk to her. And not long later, she ended up, and she made the decision. I doubt if it was anything I said, but maybe, you know, saying, hey, not everybody's made for this. She ended up, I believe, going to work for the VA in Tennessee. So, and I wish them both luck. But again, not everybody's made to work, especially at a penitentiary. So while he's on watch, they're interviewing him. They're doing all this. And I don't know how long he was on suicide watch, but I guarantee you psychology did their job. And one of the things they're trying to find out, obviously, why did you do it? And inmates usually will tell you, it's hopeless. I'll be in prison for the rest of my life. I can't see my family, or somebody died in their family. If the system is against me, I'm innocent. You know, those usual type things. Well, whatever the words were said, but I guarantee you somewhere in there. So once he gets through that emotional stage, the depression stage, they pull him off. And it's basically, okay, his mind's gone from down here to basically up here. I can still, I got a trial. One of the things I would always bring up was, look, you can appeal your thing. And yes, you're getting tried again for this, but you know what? You might be found not guilty. They might not give you what you think you're going to get. things happen in courts. Juries are unpredictable. You can go to a jury in L.A. and then go to one in Dallas. You're gonna the mindset is different. Anything can happen, and especially with the political world nowadays. So that's one of the things I always talk to them. And, you know, they sometimes it cheered them up, sometimes it didn't. But you know, you got to do your job. Well, psychology, once they pull him off, he's gonna go on. He's gonna go in with somebody. He's not gonna get a single cell. Not gonna happen. They put him in with what I read, a big police officer who allegedly killed somebody. But the cops, if he was on trial or was found guilty, last thing he's going to want is more attention himself. He's got issues himself going into, you know, a facility, but he's not at the same level as Epstein. So I guarantee you they're talking and all that stuff. And it just, you know, he's going to tell them, hey, you're screwed. Well, he gets in there, and what I read from the paper was he was telling his lawyer that he was being beaten up and abused by his cellie. Well, I guarantee you that's horseshit. Inmates claim that shit all the time. It's called manipulation games inmates play. They're trying to get a single cell. Guarantee he was trying that. He was trying to get a cellie that would be either more sympathetic in his cause or look the other way so he can kill himself. It's happened. And thing is, the executive staff all make their rounds every week. Always make their rounds. So, you know, he could have, you know, I will bet you he gave cop-outs, notes to the warden, the captain, everybody else, and especially if you get a note to the wardens, because who's walking with him? The lieutenant and the captain are right there. And the warden's going to look at it, turn to the captain and say, Captain, check this out. Captain's going to tell the lieutenant, get some guys down here, pull him out. They can put him in a holding cell. And they're going to strip him out. They're going to check him, make sure there's no knots, bruises, anything that he's been abused. If he was beat up, they're going to, guess what? They're going to do an investigation, and they're not going to just paper with it. If they do, that's more problems. But they're going to check it out. They're going to have medical come down. And if the inmate does something else, oh, I'm being sexually abused, then it's a whole PREA type thing, and we'll get into that. And there's good and bad with that. Now, obviously none of that happened, and they're going to put him back in. Well, if the time comes, his big cellie gets moved, put on a bus, put on a plane, wherever, to go somewhere else. And they're making these moves. And he's looking out his little window. Staff are not coming. This is my opportunity. When I was a lieutenant, and I had somebody on watch, or had a history, or suicide attempts, and I knew he was in a cell, the staff knew he comes out too. He comes out too. He's not going to be left alone. They're going to put him in a holding cell. USP McCrary, staff were great. Beaumont, when it comes to that area, they were good, great. Other institutions, Berlin, okay. You know, basically every institution I've been to, the staff have been pretty good at. But it doesn't mean they're institutions where the staff do their job. If the lieutenants are busy, those two lazy staff members should have been calling lieutenant saying, hey, so-so is by himself, what do you want us to do? Should have at least done that. And the lieutenant, if he had his act together, is going to say, pull him out, put him in a holding cell, throw a mattress down, we'll deal with him in the morning. That's what happens at most places. Okay? I've done it many a times. Because the last thing you're going to do, because you're not going to want to sit there and have to fight him, is to get a cell, put somebody in it. And with him coming down there, they're going to go, nope, I ain't taking a cellie, I ain't taking him. So most wardens are going to go, you know what, we'll deal with it, something like that in the morning. No problem. You already know ahead of time. Some wardens are like, I don't care. We're not going to deal with this crap. When we tell them, you're going to get a cellie, you're getting a cellie. You're coming out of that cell. Period. And when you get there with a team, and I've had a few warrants like that, said, no, we're not doing any of this stuff because the more inmates games that they play. And when the team gets up there, yeah, I'll cuff up. Yeah, I'll take it. And so you just, because you got other things to do, you just put him in a holding cell, put a mattress down there, and staff get to see him literally every minute. So, guess what? Staff are not making their rounds on morning watch. It's not that hard. I work many doubles where you're worn out. Mandate when I was an officer, you're mandated. I once worked as a lieutenant. I once worked 22 and a half hours straight as the operations lieutenant, worn out. But guess what? And that's not counting being up half the day, before you go to work. Well, guess what? I still made my rounds. I still did what was needed when I was an officer. And in the old days, when they used to put your name in a hat, and they would draw it, hey, congratulations, you just made some extra money. You worked 2 or 3 overtimes a week. It was the way it was done. So there's no sympathy from this person, this old timer, to that staff member, and to that local union making excuses. Oh, he's on his 2nd or 3rd mandate. Don't give a shit. It's not that hard to do your JOB. 12 midnight count, 3 a.m., 5 a.m. And then your rounds, 30 to 40 minutes, no later than 40 minutes. Period. It's not 30 minutes, it's no more than 40 minutes at the most. You could do that. Get it done. You could have put your feet up all the rest of the time. You could play cards or dominoes, something. Sit there and done this all night. Even the stuff that papers say that they're on the internet all the time. They were on the internet all the time. You could have done that. Oh, got to make a rounds. Got to make your rounds. I'll tell you straight up, I used to play dominoes when I was on morning watch. But guess what? When I was at Victorville, I used to do that when I was in shoot. But guess what? By God, we made our rounds, and we not only made our rounds, we made extra rounds. Because when the alarm goes off, because they hit a little button, hey, CO, can I get a thing of toilet paper? Don't hit that button again. When I make my rounds, tell me you need toilet paper. No problem, boss. But you did that. Because the last thing you want is somebody hanging. We're not the judge, we're not the jury, we're not the executioner. We do our job. Okay? It's simple. They were lazy. And the reason they're lazy is because one of the issues is the union, the locals, some of them are bad, some of them are good. But we'll get into that. But that's because, one, executive staff over the last 15 years not holding the union people responsible for their action. Oh, don't worry about it. Drop it. No, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. You have to hold people accountable. Okay? I made mistakes. You take your hit. You take your day on the beach, or 2 or 3 or a week or whatever. I know one guy got it for a month. Okay, he's not in the bureau anymore, but he did a month. The thing is, you take your hit and you move on. But to lay down and be lazy, because one of the problems is people think that the union is always going to save them, and it's not always going to happen. But we'll get into the AFGE later. What happened in New York happened at USP Lee. Staff not doing their JOB in the rounds in shoe, hung himself. FCI Latuna, same thing. The same damn thing. Staff not doing their rounds. We're not talking mistakes here. Everybody makes mistakes. The director of Bureau of Prison, okay? I know him. He was my RD in the Northeast. Damn good man, okay? He's been awarded AW RD, all these things. And when he was farther down the totem pole, officer and all that, he's made mistakes. And you learn from them and you correct them. But being a lazy piece of shit, guess what? They only have themselves to blame. Now, quickly, once he hung himself, staff got there, and one of the things you hear in the news, there was one show, staff, new information, staff were talking to him. Guess what? Happens all the time. I've talked to a dead man before. Come on, man. Because you're playing to the inmates and you're playing to the staff. Because if it goes to a civil jury or if it goes to a criminal case because maybe something happened somewhere along the line, maybe somebody hung himself or killed himself and there's a cellie. Seen that happen. And then guess what? Now you've gone from civil to criminal. And of course, civil down the road because the family always, guess what? I haven't seen my kid in 20 years, but when all of a sudden, oh, my poor son, boo-hoo, I'm going to sue the Bureau for $10 million. Guess what? They talked to him. Come on, man, come on, because once in a blue moon, you survived. There was one inmate at USB McCrary. The emergency room doctor in Knoxville couldn't figure out how he lived. But he lived because almost all his blood was gone. But guess what? Things happen. When God wants you, he's going to take you. When God doesn't want you, he's going to leave you. And one thing we always say, right or wrong or indifferent, they have a tendency to be like cockroaches. Very rarely that inmates die. Okay, they're tough. They're tough. Now, also there's another thing with knots about, oh, that was a homosexual knot. Whatever officer said that are so full of shit. All I can do is shit. I went, you got to be kidding me. First of all, people tie knots, sheets, and all that other things that they use on what they know. Period. What they know. Has nothing to do with homosexual or straight or bisexual. Period. Then there's another one. There is camera tape missing. Excuse me, you got all the other cameras on the range. You're going to see that basically the same damn thing. One camera out or one tape missing from one camera, irrelevant in shoe down on the ranges. Now when you go outside the range, now you can sit there and go, what did we miss? And you hope a far camera will pick that up. But on a range, you got other cameras there. But the thing is, the Bureau of Prisons cameras are not the greatest, but they still get the job done most of the time. He was killed himself. He was not murdered. MI4 didn't sneak in there and kill him. No CIA or NSA or DNI or Clinton's people had nothing to do with it. A certain individual didn't come running out, flipping his mask off as the music played, jumping in the van and driving off. No, none of that crap happened. He killed himself because he made the decision to kill himself. Me personally, I don't hold the staff responsible. Because guess what? Inmates have killed themselves throughout the Bureau. Staff make their ranges, they come off, he hangs himself. Texarkana. Inmate has a visit, his wife tells him, we're getting a divorce, you're not going to see the kids, he goes back, staff put him in, they leave, come back, make the rounds, come back, and guess what? He hangs himself. An inmate is going to kill himself. Now, sometimes staff are going to trip over it. You know, they're going down and drop off toilet paper, or maybe an inmate's property, or they're doing books. And the inmate, as soon as the staff walked off, and he was ready, and he turns around and he hangs himself. but another staff member is going, hey, I got to go drop off this roll of toilet paper. Okay, or I got to go do mail. And the staff look and went, they, oh my gosh, or they go down one range, they come back, and they're like, what the hell? Oh, shit. And they call for assistance or medical emergency. But what they are in trouble for is those other things. You don't lie to the FBI. I constantly would tell staff, make your rounds. If you don't make it in time, document why. The camera is going to match it up. When people die, they're going to take the cameras and the books, and they get told over and over and over. And I know I was not the only lieutenant or captain in the Bureau of Prisons that would tell staff. I will tell you 99.9% of the supervisors would tell them that. SIS lieutenants, SIA would tell them, we're going to take the books. We're going to take the cameras. We're downloading and we're going to match them up in approximate area. So if you put at 3:15 p.m. you did rounds, but the camera shows 3:18, guess what? Every watches are different. Clocks can slow down. Some are faster than others. But you made it. But you put 3:15 and nothing goes on, and then it's 4:15. You know what? Now your ass is in trouble. It's in a ring. So they're done. It's not the first time, and it's not going to be the last until Congress, the Senate, and the executive branch get together and actually come up with an idea and listen to the people, not the higher-ups, okay? Not the heads of the AFGE, because they're all both there's politics involved. But the people in the trenches, retirees, lieutenants, captains, and AWs, people who have custody, not just a year or two, but spent 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years in custody and know what the hell they're talking about to fix the things. And there's enough blame going around. But those are coming down the road. People kill themselves every day out here. They do it in prison. Most attempts are manipulation in the Bureau. Sometimes they're not. This guy wanted to kill himself because he saw no way out. And there's nothing anybody could do about it. Not the Bureau, not psychologists. Nobody could have done anything about it. Because he made that decision. Choice. Do I feel sympathy for him? No. Am I upset? Yes, because guess what? He has all the dirty laundry and all these Hollywood, Democratic congressmen, senators, things like that. I would love to know. Hopefully this woman, she makes a deal with the feds and gives them everything. Because it's the only way she's going to not do a life sentence. She gives him everything. And then throws the mercy of the court. So, I know he's rotten in hell. Serves him right. Good for the victims. And unfortunately, the bad side is he knows where all the bodies are, all the information. And there are some guilty people. Go on YouTube, look at the comedian. I'm not going to say his name. Rip in Hollywood. You can see all the nervous faces in there. You bet there's some nervous people. So, we're done for this week. And I'm going to give you, let me grab my eyes. I don't want to put them over here somewhere. If you like what I said, you put stuff in the comments section. If you love it, if you like what I said, put your thumbs up. If you don't like it, put your thumbs down. I'm still going to sleep the same. If you got questions you want to ask me, my email address is lockitdown, duck, D-U-C-K, at gmail.com. LOCKITDOWN, duck, BOPCaptain@gmail.com. I don't care if you're in the Bureau, out of the Bureau. If you have a loved one that's going to federal prison or a loved one inside and you got some questions on how it really is, I will be glad to tell you. So if you have any questions, email me or put it in the comments section. I'll try and get back to you. And I think next time I'm going to look at something interesting also to talk about. And I'll probably talk about the levels. We'll probably start with the camps next week. Camps, lows, mediums, and pens. Those are the basic ones. And I think the camps are going to be fun. Because what some of these people go to camps try and betray them as. Shit. Again, my name is William Duck. I'm retired Bureau of Prisons. Again, I retired as a captain at USP Beaumont. I enjoyed the Bureau. Again, this is not going after the Bureau. This is just state what's going on. Again, I'm not going to be talking about things that could put staff at risk or security or anything like that. But we're going to have fun talking about the good, the bad, and ugly, staff, inmates, and most of the time I'm not going to mention names, staff or inmates, because last thing I don't want somebody to get hurt, and I'm not going to do that. Most of the other stuff we're going to talk about. Okay, take care. Have a nice day.